Everybody, it's Pat Love from eXp Realty. I'm here today with Marci Deane of Mortgage Architects. Hi, Marci.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Crazy busy and for February, but it's a good thing. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. We're both kind of crazy busy in this
Mhm.
weird market, which is why we're here today. We're going to talk about the the North Shore in particular, but in general, the real estate market in the Lower Mainland and what's happening. So, Marci, I know how crazy the market is for me. How about sharing what's going on in the mortgage end of things for us?
Yeah, it is extremely busy. Usually January we would be just maybe starting to ramp up, people thinking about spring. We have been inundated with pre-approval since December. So early spring, I guess, if you will. I have more people pre-qualified than I've ever had in my 15 years in the business right now. And it's frustrating because there's not enough listings, as you know. And so people are having to compete and losing and or making cash offers. So if they're working with a mortgage broker, they don't have cash. That's how that works. You're getting a mortgage, it's not cash, it's borrowed money. And yet they're writing offers without a condition to financing and without a condition to appraisal. In fact, without any conditions, as you've probably seen. So inspections are being done ahead of time, that kind of stuff.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So it's different. It's intense. It's stressful. It's not great for consumers and buyers, I don't think. But
No, it's very hard on the buyers. And yeah, I know we're recommended not to let people go without subjects, and we try not to, but you know, some places like recently we chatted about before we hit before we hit
yeah.
record on this call, and we had a little scenario where a house in North Vancouver had 31 offers,
Mhm.
and most of them I suspect were subject free.
Yeah.
And it's an excellent market for people wanting to sell
Hmm.
if they
Right.
have a place to
If
go.
you're downsizing or leaving, it's great. Unfortunately, I'm also hearing I've got people that are doing that, leaving the Lower Mainland with COVID and the changes in work requirements. A lot of people moving to smaller towns or changing lifestyle, but even in these smaller communities, it's very competitive. I just had a client competing 6 offers in Nelson, British Columbia, and she ended up writing a pretty much a cash offer. There was a condition to title review, and that was all because there was an easement across the property. So it just means that people need to be doing a lot more due diligence ahead of time.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's probably good for my industry, for mortgage brokers, because unlike a bank pre-approval, we tend to do a lot more work on the front side with document collection and review. It's not just a simple automated rate hold that I'm giving people. I'm fully underwriting the files, the mortgage ahead of time in my office. And in some cases, I'm recommending that the clients pay for a bank appraisal ahead of time.
That's smart. That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's costly,
Hmm.
but it could mean not getting yourself into trouble. So if the client has a large enough down payment, it may not be an issue because if they pay $1.5 million for the house, but it appraises at $1.3 million, the bank is going to lend on the $1.3 million value. That's the appraised value.
Hmm.
So the $200,000 gap is on the client. And if they're only hoping to put 20% of the purchase price into it,
Hmm.
Houston, we have a problem. We are short.
Yeah.
So at least if we do an appraisal up front, we can address some of those issues. Cash offers, there's always risks, but we try to mitigate the risk.
Okay, yeah. So everyone, just so you know, when we're talking about appraisals, the appraisers can't keep up with how the market is going.
Right.
So very rarely are they going to hit the number that you want them to hit.
Yeah.
So here comes the next question, Marci. Okay, I as I discussed with you earlier, I have always recommended people who are of a certain age group, they love the buy a house subject to the sale
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to be homeless.
Yeah.
And if they are downsizing or moving out of the area, it's always good, especially if they're trying to get a much cheaper property, to trying to access the equity in their house so that if they are in these competitions, they actually do have access to the money.
Right.
And can you explain how that works right now?
Yeah. So the best strategy, if possible, is that before they start looking, they had previously or right now, they set up a home equity line of credit on their house that they can draw on. The challenge is that to get a home equity line of credit, you need to have the income to support the credit limit. So a home equity line of credit is just like a great big credit card, credit limit on your house. So if your house is worth $2 million, maybe you have a home equity line of credit for 800,000 that you don't pay for until you use. So if you're downsizing to another community outside of Vancouver, maybe 800,000 could buy you that condo in the Okanagan. The home equity line of credit could be used temporarily. You buy the place wherever, and then you sell your house and pay out the line of credit. The challenge is that in a lot of cases, seniors or downsizers don't have the income to support an $800,000 line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
We would need to prove, $150,000, $200,000 worth of household income to get that kind of line of credit. So that's all to do with the mortgage stress test and probably too complicated for this conversation, but there are other options. There's private lending, although that can be pricey, and then reverse mortgages. There is now a product that is fairly open and is designed for this sort of short-term need. So it's a higher interest rate than a typical reverse mortgage, but it is fully open. They're the same type of setup fees, maybe a little bit higher than a regular reverse mortgage, but it would be a solution for somebody who wants like an 8-month overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason people want overlap is they maybe need time to empty out a 40-year-old house that they've lived in, and it's just too much to not have another place to go put the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple of options. The big key thing is to explore the options before the house is listed for sale. You can't mortgage or put a line of credit on a house that's on MLS.
There you go.
So
there's a little trick to know.
yeah.
Definitely. Okay, I want to share sort of what's going to work for some seniors in our area. As you know, I have quite a few connections with the retirement communities, and shall we say thank you to COVID, many of them have vacancies. So, in a situation where someone is wanting to sell their house that they own outright, and now's the time in this market, this crazy market, for sure. Now is the time, because you can move to a retirement community. They don't have a wait list; they have vacancies.
Right.
So it's a good thing to know, because I know it's very scary for everyone, selling their house and having no place to live.
Well, even for the younger crowd trying to upsize,
Mm-hmm.
they know they can sell their townhouse right now in North Vancouver. Similar to the single family, townhouses are flying off the shelf.
Yeah.
But if they're trying to move to the single family, their fear is they sell their townhouse for top dollar, and 2 months later they're on the street with 2 kids, a dog, and a gerbil. It's like, it's complicated.
And the market has left them behind. They
Yes.
didn't buy their townhouse back for what they sold it for.
Right.
Which is, scary in itself. This market is, people might think for my business that this market is good. This market isn't good for us, because
No.
how the world should work best is in balance.
Yes. And we're not in balance. And I also try to remind everybody that it is typical that February is like this a little bit in Vancouver, and then spring market comes, listings come, and things will improve. We'll have more listings, more competition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope so. For all those people who are looking and wanting to take advantage of those low mortgage rates. So can you share a bit about what's happening with the mortgage rates and what you, with your crystal ball, think is going to
happen? It's very stable below 2%, whether you're fixed or variable. I'm still very big on putting people in variable rate mortgages because I think life is variable. And if you're in a fixed rate mortgage and you need to make a change, the penalties can be very high. And even in these low rate fixed rate mortgages, a penalty could be very high in 2 or 3 years. Either way, it's a win-win. Right now, you're at 1.7, 1.8%, maybe even better if you have default insurance on there. Money is really inexpensive. And so, I know I have clients that are overpaying right now. They're bidding and they're maybe paying a bit too much money. But at the same time, on a 1.8% mortgage, a lot of their mortgage payment is paying off principal every month.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not one who thinks the Vancouver market is going to crash ever. I
Yeah.
mean, we might stabilize, but we're Vancouver on the world scene. It's a incredible place. Where can you golf in the afternoon and, go kayaking and potentially even ski all in the same day, depending on the season, right? So,
Mhm.
and then you can be in the center of downtown in the business district 10 minutes later. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tricky time right now, but interest rates are definitely helping spur this all on.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going anywhere. The Bank of Canada cannot raise prime, not this year and probably not next year.
Yeah, well, they would just end up with a bigger problem.
Right. And unlike, we in British Columbia have managed through COVID fairly well economically, and other parts of Canada, not so much. I mean, I talked to my colleagues in Alberta, and the comment from a broker in Calgary this week was, "We are in a deep recession." Those were her exact words, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Wow, it's amazing the difference,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? Well, we
Yeah.
have to thank, do we have to thank Bonnie Henry?
Well, and just the type of industry. Sorry, that was the dog bumping my.
Like we're having an earthquake.
Yeah, the earthquake or the golden retriever, whatever. The industries in British Columbia that have managed to keep going. Alberta, they were already having trouble,
Yeah.
right? And then COVID hasn't helped. And then they've had more lockdowns and more spiking cases than we have. So,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. So, Marcy, anything you want to ask me?
well, I would say, like, how are you handling the clients that are getting discouraged? Like, what can you say to people that there seems to be a great sense of discouragement and forget it, we should just keep renting forever or not sell?
Yeah.
And what's your comment to all of that?
Well, my comment is similar to yours. We're still in a low part of the winter where we don't have a lot of listings. I am hoping that it will change. There will be an increase, and there should be, and hopefully some positivity
Mm-hmm.
for everyone. And I think part of our problem is the negativity part. Everybody, oh, I don't want to make a change because I'm scared
Yeah.
what's around the next corner. And I think we all are because we're waiting for an announcement from her tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, there's some, yes.
There's something
And I
coming
think,
today with school, but tomorrow we'll see how much longer we can't have a social life and all of that stuff. So I just tell people, this is a big decision. This is your largest asset. So it's not to be something that's rushed. And I was sharing with some friends yesterday. It frustrates me time and time again that human nature is to follow the crowd.
mhm,
And I could have sold people places in the fall, no problem, no problem. But I'll be honest with you, I had a listing, a beautiful listing. I still have it. It's actually got an accepted offer, and it's in downtown Vancouver. It's a very large townhouse and in a great price range, like where our target price per square foot is right in the middle. It's in a
mhm.
perfect area. It was crickets from when I listed it to the end of December.
Interesting.
And I had good open houses when we were allowed to do that, but I think people came because they had nothing they wanted to
I know.
do. And so it was crickets. And then I've talked to a few of my competitors downtown in Yaletown, and Yaletown got a lot of bad press. Also, people were leaving downtown Vancouver in droves because they didn't need to be close to work anymore. And they made the Fraser Valley market just go nuts long before even North Van did.
Right.
And so now it's spreading down there. That I'm so pleased that my people, they've been very patient. They had
Mhm.
an offer, they didn't like it, so they didn't negotiate, and then they got another offer. And so they finally have something. Sorry. So now we've come to an agreement on an offer, and we're waiting for subjects to come off next week. I did talk to all my competitors down there to see what they were getting, because these offers weren't over asking like all the house ones in North Vancouver.
Right.
So everybody had the same experience. You know, these places have been listed for a while, so people were trying lowball offers, and those aren't working now because there's competition.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's got to give somehow.
Right.
And I wonder what new government tax they'll put out trying to fix it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the message I have for people is be very prepared in this market. I make sure we've really pre-qualified. We've looked at job letters, pay stubs, tax returns. We try to get rid of all the surprises that might pop up. I was on a call yesterday with the mortgage broker BC FSA regulators listening in, and there was a question about these competing offers and people potentially putting in cash offers when they didn't really have the cash. And the regulator was very politically correct, very careful with his response, but indicated they are watching. And at all levels, they're watching what's happening, because from a consumer point of view, are there dangerous things happening? Is this dangerous for consumers? So it is. On a brand new build, a buyer gets 7 days to rescind their offer if they decide they don't like things. Now people are buying 40-year-old houses with no rescission, when a whole lot more could go wrong with that than, as an example, a brand new build that has a 10-year warranty. So, it's about working with professionals, being prepared, don't get caught up in things, be very careful about overbidding, especially if the down payment is limited, because you could get yourself into trouble. That's the big one, is the bank appraisal.
Yeah. Okay. So the big takeaway from today is reach out to your professional before you get all wrapped up in everything. I tell everyone who wants to work with me, what has the mortgage broker said?
Yes.
Because really, they know mortgage brokers are on top of all the rule changes. And we try to keep up, but we also have to keep up on our side of the business. Right. So that's why working with a professional mortgage broker, not just your bank, because your bank knows what your bank knows, and Marci here knows what all the banks know.
Well, I try. And the banks sometimes won't have a solution, but an independent mortgage broker has other options. So, and honestly, from a lot of the banks, they're just getting so many online quickie inquiries. They have these, I've seen the advertising, get pre-approved in 60 seconds, but it's not pre-approved. It's based on the input of the data that you're putting into their app. And there could be reasons why that data is wrong from a lending point of view.
Oh, yeah. And I've seen it before. I've had people tell me, oh, yeah, no, I'm approved for this. My bank says I'm fine. And I'm going, well, what sort of paperwork have you got saying that? And I think it's just because people don't know what they don't know. And that's why I'm trying to I would like to produce a few more videos where I talk to people, and maybe we'll do another one where we talk about your process so people know.
Yeah, we should do one and talk about stratas, because that's a area buyers don't realize how much lenders look at strata. So they asked me why we need 7 days. It's because somebody at the bank is actually reading strata minutes.
Yeah. And those are fun to read. I have to say, if you're having insomnia at all, I highly recommend you read strata documents.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So we could do a whole 20 minutes and talk about what to look for in those.
Yes, we could. We could. Okay, Marci, I know that you're a busy lady, and I got to get myself going too. So thank you very much for sharing your information. I learned a lot. I always like it when I learn something new.
Absolutely.
And realize that maybe I've been doing it wrong for a while. Not really wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.